We're in the run-up to Christmas, and the question on everyone's minds always is, do we cruise into Christmas or do we push a little bit harder? I know what my good friend and co-host Darren Pratley would say. More from him after the intro. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of the Blink podcast. My name's Jonathan Creek and to my left, co-host Darren Pratley all the way from New Zealand. Other left, that's it, perfect. Darren, g'day mate, welcome to another episode. An important one I think, this one.
Oh, this is a great topic, mate, because I tell you what, as I'm around the country here in New Zealand, mate, this is the one that is just absolutely on everybody's lips, and I think it's the perfect topic for us today.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that, I know we keep going on about it. There probably isn't an episode of this podcast where we haven't mentioned that things have been a little bit tumultuous in the areas that we work, from recruiting to car sales to real estate to finance to all those areas that we work in. Everyone's had some disruption. They've come into this year where things are slowly or sort of getting back to normal, but yet a little bit different still. And a lot of people are finding it taxing. And I think what we're seeing is I'm seeing a two-speed economy here at the moment in the people that I'm working with. I can go into an office and essentially half the team is dragging themselves to Christmas. They're exhausted. They don't want to play anymore. They say, we're done, we're cruising in. And then there's another level, another group who are like, no. Things are coming back. Now's the time to harvest. We're going as hard as we can because 2023 is going to be where it pops for those who have done the work beforehand. Which camp
100%.
do you sit in?
Mate, you're exactly right. We're exactly seeing the same thing over here at the moment. And there's two groups of people. One that are going, woe is me, and look at back. And those that are going, now, if I do this core work, that's going to set me up for the year ahead. And I just want to get us, I think probably the good thing is thinking about what our mindset is, and maybe there's a mind shift needed to create a much better year ahead. So I definitely know that these are the hot topics right now in our market as well.
Yeah, it's just giving me the indication that the strong are going to get stronger. The ones making the moves now are going to move the needle next year. You can come up with all these different, whatever you want to call them, analogies, but it just seems as though the ones with the strongest foundations, systems and processes, they're the ones that are like, you know what, I'm just going to, not at the moment, but I'm work. They're not refining their systems and processes now. They're actually just working with what they've got, but they're looking to the future of the things they want to get done in that quiet January period, so that when late January, February clicks over, they're just going to put things on turbo boost and fly. So hopefully in this episode today, I think it'd be a great idea if we just went over just a few of the things that people need to get ready and get organised and push in these last couple of weeks before the Christmas break. So that in 2023, rock stars.
Yeah, love it. The other thing, mate, I just want to impress in that conversation you just had is getting people to actually assess market share. So understanding what percentage of the market or opportunity in the market they are receiving. Because one of the things that I see at the moment is a lot of people beat themselves up about actually the amount of business they're doing or the amount of business they're writing. And what you've got to do is make sure you keep it in context with exactly the market share that you have. Because I always say in offices, market share is the number one piece of data you need to keep assessing, because that will show how effective you are in your marketplace. If you are still at 30% market share like you've always been, but there's been a big drop off in volume in a marketplace, that's okay, because everybody else is experiencing the same market and you still have the same market share. But if you're in a situation where you now have 10% market share of a market that's dropped, but everyone else has stayed the same, a few people have picked up extra, that's when I really am concerned about what is the level of activity or what's going on within that office. So just keep thinking about in terms of that whole, where are we going and what's our charge to Christmas, and use that market share data to analyze actually where are you positioned in your market sector, and just to make sure that you are holding, if not growing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It should be point number one in this discussion, I think, is know exactly where you stand. There's so much
Yeah,
data. Like, if you think back 10 years ago, 20 years
yeah,
ago, I mean, 30 years ago, I don't know how they would have even guessed whether a real estate agent was holding 30% of their market or not.
well, I
Unless, of
didn't. It
course, unless of
was really
course
hard.
you paid the kid who was delivering the newspapers in the morning to count the boards as he rode his bike around the neighborhood. And maybe that would give you an estimate of whether you had market share or not. But they just don't know. But we're in such a luxurious position now that we can actually measure this stuff. We can even measure this stuff, run some campaigns, and remeasure it at such a
Yep,
small cost, and know the
yep,
effect of those campaigns. We know whether if we change our language, if we change the type of content we put out, if we do letterbox
yep.
drops, we can just tell every little tweak whether it's having an effect or not. And previously, that was just put down to business acumen, wasn't it? It was just put down to
Yeah,
business sense and sensibilities. And now, well, you can measure it. You can get hard
yeah.
data, no more guessing game. So
That's it. And,
that's
and
another.
you know where you are, right? So by knowing these market share numbers, it's such a great way for you to get a clear picture on where you and your team are, and exactly where you need to be. So yeah, very, very good. Just a good piece of insight there to help you sort of assess where you're at this time of the year.
Yeah, I think there was a key point you made though. Like I said, position, but you were comparing position against others, and I think a lot of people look at their position in terms of finances. They get their zero account and whatever, and it gives them a track of where they're at. But unless you're actually comparing it against your competitors, it actually doesn't mean a lot. It might mean that you can afford
Because
some nice things or not afford some nice
yeah,
things, but if you're not tracking it against the
again,
industry, you don't know.
and that's what happened when the market went all frothy and it was all amazing, right? Everyone was, astronomical. Oh, Darren, I'm just doing so much better than I've done in previous years, and I'm making more money, and my business is going so much better. But the thing that I just wanted to keep reminding everybody is, well, so was everybody else's. It wasn't necessarily what you were doing; it's the market changed, and right now we could be a little bit in the opposite, right? That the market shifted back the other way, and now people are looking at their businesses going, oh, my business is terrible. But actually, when you look at the market share perspective, you haven't shifted or haven't changed. You're actually no worse than anyone else. So you're actually doing okay, right? So this is this just getting this balance right of knowing your data and actually positioning your business better.
So get out there and measure your input and your output so that you know your position against the industry. That's number one. Number
Mhm.
two, what are we heading into?
I think it's review this year. I think one of the things that is a really good time of the year now to look back at the year and, what went well, what didn't go so well, what was your real successes, what were the challenges for the year. And I think by getting a bit of a look back at this year, there's so many learnings this year, right? You and I have talked about this over the last couple of years, the amount of learnings that we can take in business out of what's happened to our business environment over the last couple of years should set us up for the rest of our business careers, right? Because these have been the perfect incubators for all of this challenge and pressure and opportunities and change that we all talk about. And I think for me right now, the ability for us just to look back at this year and go, what's worked, what's gone really well for us, what hasn't, what have been the key learnings, and actually make sure, and this is what I say to people all the time, is write the bloody learnings down, right? Put them on a piece of paper and actually write some things down. What were the key learnings for you for this year? Because I think that really sets you up for planning for next year.
Yeah, I think whenever you go through tough times or the market goes through tough times, you should always be making greater. It's always the period where you make greater change, and
Yeah,
I always look back at the way that I run my businesses on 12 monthly, 6 monthly, 12 monthly, 3 years and 5 years. Now, if you go back 3 years, we haven't even had COVID yet, you know. And I look at the business and how I was running it, and my business in particular, how I was running it 3 years ago, mate. The bottom line was no problem at all. That was, not at all. But I was experiencing what I think a lot of startup businesses suffer is feast and famine, or solopreneur sort of businesses suffer is feast or famine. You do all the lead generation work, and you actually, if you're any good at it, you get leads, and then you got to do the work. And then while you're doing the work, you're so busy, you don't do any more lead generation. So you get to the end of that clog of work, and then
here comes the roller coaster.
Yeah,
here comes the roller coaster.
All of a sudden, you sit in your office on a Monday morning after doing all the work, and you go, okay, now I've got to start again. And it becomes really tiresome, like really worn out.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that COVID and the tough times of COVID have taught me, and sessions I've spent with you, is how do we smooth that out? How do we make sure that at least a level of lead generation continues so that you can still accommodate the work and the leads? Now, maybe I'm thinking that, if I was to look towards 2023, the trajectory that the business is on, I'm probably looking at having to get my first employer back in 8 years. I've resisted for a long time. And so in my review, if we're going to do this, and we like to keep it real on Blink, if we're going to do it, my review looking back now is that my systems and processes are much better than what they were 3 years ago. Marketing myself better, not just sitting back and letting content be the only generator. I do a lot of different things now. Shout out to Australia Post. If you listen to the last episode, you'll understand what that's about. And also,
they're not still in the office, are they?
Huh?
They're not still in the office.
No, they're posted. They've posted, and Darren, the results are in. Post stuff. Post bulky stuff. Works.
Just do it.
Combine it with video, all that stuff. Review yourself. Review the content that you're making. Review your presence in the market. Review your systems and your processes. Review your creative. Review whether the tasks that you actually like doing versus the ones you don't like doing. What brought you enjoyment in the business? What didn't bring you enjoyment in the business? I think these are all important areas that leading in to Christmas, I think it's great. And I think it leads well into one of the points that you wanted to cover today, which is take a breath. And I think reviewing your business and then getting all the information and then immediately taking the breath after you've done that review.
Yeah.
And just let it percolate in your head. Just let these things sit around for a little bit. You don't have to act just now because we're coming into a Christmas break. So you've got time to think about it and then implement it.
The big thing for me is, especially this time of the year, you always get, because this time of the year is one of those times of the year where you start to review things, right? You review your work, you review your life, you review your kids, can't get rid of your kids, by the way. You review your kids, relationships, life, your life, where you're, and this is one of the things, right? Is this year has been challenging for most. This year has been different to many. This has just been challenging times, right? And the ability for you to be able to review your situation, review where you're at, review what's going on and how this year's been is really valuable. But it's only 1 year. It's only 1 year in your story and your journey, and it's not going to be the one that creates the full stop. It's just a comma, and we go into next year. But what we need to be doing is just reviewing our perspective of this year and making sure that by allowing ourselves to take a breath, not beating yourself up, just going, actually, it is what it is. This year's been, this bit you have done, but that needs to then create and spur you into what does next year look like. And I think it's really important this side of Christmas to start thinking about what next year needs to look like, because those thoughts about what would I do differently? What are the things that I want to change? How will I do things differently? I think is really important.
I'll tell you one.
Do you want to know what mine is?
I'll tell you one thing, and why I think it's important to review this time of year, and it's strategic. I'll tell you 100% strategic. I like to get my reviews done around Melbourne Cup weekend, right? Because it's a quiet time in Victoria. Everyone takes like 4 days off. I like to review because I know leading into Christmas, so my review's probably already done. I review into Christmas because I want to know exactly where I am, because I know over Christmas when I go down to the coastal areas here in Victoria, the Mornington Peninsula, I mix with different people. I mix with other business operators. I mix with my dad, who was a CEO of big companies, and they all think differently. Now, if I didn't review or know where I stood, the value of those conversations that I end up having casually with these people don't have anywhere near as much value because I don't know where I stand. But if I can sit with these people, have a chat, maybe we go out fishing, maybe we walk on the beach, maybe we meet for a coffee, and I sit there, or just casually at a social function because we can all get social again, and I sit there and say, well, this is exactly where my business is and I'm not quite sure which way to take it. All these other experts who are successful, who you don't usually meet during the year, you only meet them really over summer, can have an input. And you can take it on board, and it's a lot more valuable. So that's why I think it's really valuable to get your review done in the lead up into Christmas. The run into Christmas review is the most valuable because you're going to be able to share it with smarter minds.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea, mate. The other one for me on that also is by getting your thinking settled leading into Christmas, because we know what Christmas is like. She's an emotional, frenetic, fast-paced time of, especially with families and where we're going for Christmas lunch and all the stuff that goes with that. You don't need all that business hoo-ha in your head at the same time. This is a good chance for us to go, actually, let me get some clarity about how I'm feeling, where I'm up to, and what my numbers look like, and then start thinking about what my thinking should and needs to be for New Year early in the play before that period. So you're feeling that sense of settledness and acceptance, right? This is the piece. How many people say to me, I wish that was, I didn't know, I wish. Well, forget about that, because that's gone then. That's all. We're going to be thinking about, well, if that's what you wish, then why don't we make sure we've got a plan in place for next year, so at the same time next year, you're not having those same wishes,
But it also gives you a head start. I mean, so life in Australia is dictated by public holidays, and I know that you guys, you probably have as many public holidays as well.
Yep.
And so, what happens in Australia in particular is that people start winding down from about the 15th of December, particularly in real estate, because they don't hold auctions or sales beyond the 15th. All right, there's no Christmas Eve auctions, like it just doesn't happen. So about the 15th, they start to wind down, and then you've got the Christmas break, and then in late January, we've got Australia Day. So what a lot of industries do is they go, you know what? Let's just go from Christmas to Australia Day, and then we'll get back to work. Now, they have some skeleton staff in that January, manning the office, answering the phones, that sort of stuff, just keeping the automated things ticking over. But none of the real decision makers are in the office in that time. So it's sort of like a real sleepy period. But here's the thing. If they don't do their reviews before Christmas, they're not doing their reviews until they land back in the office on the 27th, 28th of January. So if you get your review, if you get your 2022 review done in 2022, by the time 23 turns around, you go back to the office on the 15th of January, or I think the 16th is the Monday. If you go back then, just 10 days, with your reviewing plan, you've just given yourself a 4 to 6 week head start on anyone else in the industry. Because by the time they start their review, and then they talk about it, and then they wait for everyone to come back to the office, and then school starts, and they get distracted, they're not going to get that done until mid to late February. So if you get it done now, in that 15th to 25th window, right, which most people don't do a lot other than shopping, right, get it done in that window so that in a month's time on the 15th of January, you're ready to go and you're in front. Stay ahead of the game.
Love it.
Look at me, I'm jumping up and down in my chair because I know how good that is.
You're even excited about it already. How good's that?
It's probably a little bit disappointing for those listening on the audio podcast, but I'm wiggling in my chair with excitement.
There you go.
All right,
Exactly.
number 3. Where are we at? 4, 3, 4. Whichever one. Next.
I think we're at four. I think that number 4 is all around mindset, right?
Mindset.
And this is probably where I think that this year's been really challenging, is that how we actually, value our mindset, understand exactly how we position ourselves. We did a joint session with a good friend of mine, John Shack. And John Sheldon is very much about mindset and helping people have good, high-performing mindsets. And I tell you what, one of the things I find with some of the commentary he's been putting out is just making sure that we understand how this brain of ours works a little bit more, and realizing that the voice in our head doesn't necessarily have to be the one that controls or makes the final decision on everything. That voice in our head is just another opinion. And what we've got to be able to do is to sometimes separate ourselves from those opinions in our minds and actually be able to go, actually, that's just me reacting because of a certain reason, but actually the direction I need to go needs to look like this. And I think just developing that mindset concept of being able to ready your mind, settle your mind, be more in the space that says I'm ready for a higher level of performance, actually helps us get ready for a new year ahead. And I know personally for me, mate, this is a big one for me, because for this year, for me, it's been probably one of the biggest years in my business career this year. It's been absolutely from start to finish, it's been full on. But the biggest part for me is allowing me some time now just to be able to go, right, get this mindset sorted for next year. What is it going to look like? What do we need to be having in place? And just, some of the automatic responses they'll have to situations, I need just to say, hold on a minute, that's because of the way you've worked in the past. Maybe we need to take a step back, review, and then be able to position ourselves for the year ahead. So I really, truly believe that mindset space has got to be an area that we really be careful what we take into 2023. We've got to make sure we take the good stuff and not stuff that we may call rubbish into next year.
I'll just pick you up on a point there. You said you've had your best year.
Yep.
This year, 2022.
Yep.
Yeah. In all this time, 2022.
Yep.
Your best, right? Is it a coincidence that you're also in 2022 started a podcast with someone?
I think it's got a lot to do with that.
Wow.
To tell you the truth,
Wow.
I think it's just the ability to get this content out in such a very unique and insightful way I'm pretty sure helped.
I think I'm about to hit records too. Don't want to make this a brag fest, but I think this podcast, folks. I think this podcast.
I'm just writing this down. What was your quote then for 2023?
I think I'm about to hit. I've got some things in the air, but if they land, they'll be done before Christmas, and I think we could set a record.
Right, so mindset, right? This is the piece, right? So you can just see it there already. You're saying, hey, I've got these opportunities. I've got this stuff coming. If I can get these across the line, that's going to change my result. That's going to make me have a better year. But at the end of the day, mindset is, hey, whether those come off or not, what am I going to carry into 2023? Now, if I can get you to carry 2023, that mindset of these are the opportunities, this is what I'm hunting, this is what I'm looking to close, this is the deals, this is where I need to be, this is where I need to be spending my time, it's so important.
Completely different business model for me too, mind you. I switched and completely changed my business model come probably May. So, with keynote speaking, which was my previous biggest year was all based on keynote speaking.
Yep.
And with that was pre-COVID. COVID destroyed that industry. It's fighting back, and I love seeing people running events. They're back. It's great. Yep. Let's get it going again. But they're not quite there yet. But I think next year they're going to be.
Yep.
This other model of business that I have is sweet and nice. And now when keynote speaking comes in, I'm just hoping we can put it on top, and do them together. And I think reviewing how I used to operate prior to COVID. Then the things that I did in COVID that worked, and I've always been
Yeah.
reviewing those years, and because they were tough. So you've got to be really sharp because you don't have a lot of runway when things are that tough. So you
No.
have to really only spend your time on the things that work. And it was a survival time over here anyway. So seeing
Yeah.
those things that worked, and then this year just formulating those into systems and processes has allowed
Yeah.
that area of the business to flourish. And then we'll
Yeah.
just now that it's ready, we'll go back to the old. It's not really the old model, but the other model, the other vertical, and plug it in, and it should work better than ever. So, thank you, Blink audience, for pushing us to this success. That's it.
Love it.
All
Love
right,
it. Love it.
next one. We said take a breath. We've reviewed your tasks. We've worked out
Yeah.
what your position is in the market. Challenges, the market. Has anyone moved? Have you moved? Haven't you moved? What are all these things?
Love it. I've got one more, mate.
One more, okay.
The last one that we're going to have is, and I talk about this quite often, and this is not necessarily just for business. This is also for your personal life as well. One of the things for me is to be what I call the instigator. So start having a think about this year that you've had, and start thinking about the year ahead. Because one of the things I want you to think about is how much are you the instigator? How much are you instigating things to happen? So, when are you booking a flight, or when are you organising a family trip, or when are you organising a friend's catch up, or when are you organising a chance to get groups of people together that you enjoy being with? Actually be the instigator, because I think at this time of the year, it's a chance for us to have a think about the things that we were going to do or intended to do, go back to those New Year's resolutions and actually start thinking about, did I actually tick those off this year? And actually, if you didn't, be the instigator. Actually put some things in your calendar that finishes off this year, and make sure that you go, actually, these are the things that I want to do. These are the things that I celebrate in my life, and be the person that creates them. Because I don't know about you, Cricky, but in our household, sometimes I kind of leave a lot of some of that stuff to Jules and her to organise that stuff. But every now and again, we just need to be thinking about, hey, if there's things that you want to do, want to achieve, want to add to your year, you be the instigator of it. You go and organise it. Go and book the tickets. Go and arrange the dinner venue, or organise the friends to attend, and just be the person that actually puts some of that stuff in place. Because I feel like nowadays we can sometimes go through life in a little bit of, I'm just turning up because someone's told me to be where I need to be, rather than you being intentional about where you want and where you need to be. So I think those are sort of things for this time of the year for us to close out this year with some real purpose and intent. I think that's a good one for being the instigator.
So with being the instigator, and you're talking about some personal life things here in terms of just living and being a family person or a friend or whatever, what do you reckon the flow-on effect of that is? So are you suggesting that, is this a little Darren Pratley trick that if you become the instigator in your life, where you start booking functions, you start organising the holidays, the little trips, you start being the doer of deeds, are you suggesting, and this is a little Darren trick, isn't it? You start doing it in your personal life, guess what happens? It flows into your business life, and you become the instigator in business. But you're just saying it's a lot easier to get started and form the habit. This is genius. I read you like a book. This isn't actually what you said, but this is what you were heading. This is the path you were heading down, isn't it? You were saying, let's be the instigator. Be nice. You're making it all sort of romantic. You mentioned that, maybe you've let Jules down a little bit and you need to self-review yourself. Be the instigator. Get up. Take action. Be the action taker. Get that going. And everyone's singing, oh, Darren, what a guy. What a catch. Darren Pratley, the catch, right? But what you actually got going on in the background, the underlying message here is that if you train yourself to do it in your personal life, it will leak into your business life because you love business. It will leak into your business life and make you a better business person. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Huh?
Seriously, you are just like, seriously. I go down a path here, which actually 50% of it was intent on making your whole life better. But but the other 50% is, yes, it does help, right? It starts to make you position yourself as someone who makes things happen and gets it happening. But you've got to actually work down that path, right? You've got to actually work down that path of making things happen in your life, because as soon as you start getting used to that, you can make it happen anywhere. And it's good, mate. Yeah.
I think I'm going to introduce the bell. So just listen, folks. Every time you hear that sound is the time we've worked out Darren's little underlying. So we've just hit the nail on the head. He's so good at disguising these things, and he's not trying to trick you. He's just trying to make you better. And I think that's genius. And happy wife, happy life. All right. Right.
Well,
and as you were saying, I was like,
just apply these principles in different areas, and you watch what happens, right? It's such a cool thing to do, that you do things that are different and that help you position yourself as a much better person, but also enjoy a better business success and a better life as well.
But I love it because I think, and I think we spoke about it on a couple of episodes ago, where people were talking about maybe it was the John Shackleton episode 9, Overcoming Anxiety and Depression, where people were feeling as though they were a bit stuck. They were complaining and negative, and I'm tired, and I'm this, and I'm that. And it's like, no, you're no more tired. You're not getting any less sleep than what you used to get. You've just become conditioned due to lockdowns and restrictions and all that sort of stuff. You've just become conditioned to be more comfortable, and now we're just trying to have to, if you want to get going, you've got to pull yourself out of the slump and get going. And so what you're talking about with being the instigator is we've got to break the old habits. We've got to break the habits of, we're locked at home. And, it happens in my family too. We went through 18 months of lockdown. So guess what happens on Saturday nights now? We don't go out as often. We prefer to sit in as a family and watch movies because we don't want to go out with the general public, because we were conditioned that that's where germs are. Right, so there's always this risk that we go out. There's a greater risk. So we've become conditioned to staying inside for longer. Now, those sorts of conditions are also affecting people in their businesses and the way they run their businesses. I'm going to do a Zoom call with you rather than face to face. I'm going to do my training over Zoom rather than come to your office. Right? There's all these things that are happening. And so what you're saying as the instigators, let's break this habit on a social structure first.
Yeah.
And then you'll get over the fear of not doing, you get over the fear of having to do something again or kickstart it. And so once you get over the fear of kickstarting it, then you apply those lessons to your business, and bingo, bango, boom, off you go.
You're away.
Oh, look at that sound.
Very clever, mate. That was good.
Yeah, I think that's a massive breakthrough for episode 13, I think. Massive.
Yeah. Love it. Hey, mate, really enjoyed it. Today's session has been bloody awesome. And I think timing and insights and what we're both learning in terms of our individual markets by comparing notes on the stuff is just such a powerful thing for our listeners to be able to go take these key points and actually apply them in their world and enjoy some further success. So I think it's fantastic.
It's the run into Christmas, folks. Make sure you make the most of this time. We've given you the tips of the things that you need to do leading into this period. Make sure you do it. We want to make sure that your 2023 is going to be your best year yet. We will be here in 2023. I'm not saying this is the last episode of 2022, but we're coming to the pointy end. We think we've done a good job. We'll pat ourselves on the back a little bit for what we've done in 2022. But hey, the work is yours to be done, and we're just here to help and guide you and give you some ideas. So hopefully we continue to do that, and we look forward to seeing you or speaking to you on the next episode. I'm Jonathan Creek, that guy there, the other way, Darren Pratley. Thanks for listening to Blink.
See everybody. Take care.
Peace.